Hey there, welcome to day one of our 5 day challenge on setting goals. And day one, we're going to start with what truly matters. Discover your core values. All right, we have to start this off with asking ourselves a question. And I have two questions I want you to think about. The first one, which I don't want you to go into details, really a lot of details of thinking about, but I want it somewhere in your mind where I want you to think about what if I told you that the key to thriving in 2025 is understanding what matters most to you. You see, too often we let life pull us in every direction without really pausing to ask a very vital question, which is, what do I truly value? And so that's the question for you. What is it that you truly value? And as we go through this first day one topic, I want you to remember that question. What is it that you truly value? So, welcome again to day one of our 5 day challenge for setting goals and redefining your path for 2025. If I have never met you, I am Dr. Cheryl, and I take a trauma informed, equity centered, and resilience focused approach to helping people live authentically and to thrive. Today, we're uncovering the core values that guide your decisions and also inspire your actions and lead you toward a fulfilling life. So we have to start off with really looking at how do we define values? So for this challenge, we're going to define it in the simplest form as those things that are important or valuable to us. Values are those ideas that you have, the beliefs that you have, and even the behaviors that we consider important. What you value impacts all aspects of your life. Everything from the clothing you wear to the type of TV you watch to your career choices, food choices, what you spend your time and money on. It is all determined by your values that you set. Your values will determine how you respond to any given situation. So let me use as an example. You have this business executive who has a 10-year-old son who is playing Little League soccer. Their son has an important match coming up one evening at the exact same time that there's a very important meeting to close a deal with someone from out of town. I'm just making this up, so we'll just say he's out of town to put a little more pressure on how values can be tested. If the business person values our work, success, and money, then the decision may not be as challenging, and they may say, it's work, I have to do it. If the business person's values are family, they may obsess or become stressed with trying to figure out how to reschedule the business meeting so they will not miss their son's ball game. Do you see how values are the driving force behind all of our decisions? Let's talk some more about values. So we have this step one that we're going to go through. And one of the things that I would love for you to do, I mentioned this in the intro of this challenge, which is that it is such a wonderful idea to have a journal where you can reflect on these things, and you can even come back and listen to this session again to really begin to answer the question that I will be posing to you. But I want you to reflect on a peak experience. So think about the moments in your life when you felt the happiest or the most fulfilled. And for right now, I want you to only think about one. You probably have 3 or 4 of them that may pop up in your mind, but let's just focus on that one. These moments often reveal what you value the most. For example, maybe you felt deeply satisfied when you successfully completed a challenging project. This could point to values like growth or achievement. So I want you again to think about a moment when you felt happiest or most fulfilled. And I want you to be able to write down the question, step one, reflect on peak experience, and just jot down a little bit of what the incident was without writing a book, what the incident was or the experience was. And then I want you to what, think about that moment you felt the happiness and what that felt like. And if you can just jot down a bullet, write just a few things about it. You felt satisfied, you felt happy, you felt whatever that is. In step two, I want you to identify people you admire. So think about the people you admire the most, whether it's a public figure, a mentor, or a loved one. What qualities stood out about them? For instance, if you admire someone for their perseverance, this might point to a value like resilience. If you're drawn to their generosity, perhaps you value kindness or service. So you come up with it. You can't get this wrong. And by the way, as I'm going through these steps, feel free to pause and take a moment to think about what each of these questions that I'm posing to you. It will help us to get to the point that we're looking for in this session. So there are two categories of values that we have to talk about before we move forward. Now, values can be put into either moving toward values or moving away from values. Of course, the moving toward values are those values that you want to implement that you may not have, and you want to bring those toward you. You want to bring them up more resonate, where you resonate with them or you live them. You want them in your life. And so these are just some of those values. So they're not all. So you may be able to come up with a bigger list and write those down also. What are those values that you want to move toward? But there are values that we want to move away from also. If if you carry around with you a lot of anxiety, you may want to work on how you can move away from that value of anxiety. And anxiety meaning that not one that's diagnosable, but that it's something that shows up for you when you do certain things. And I'll give you an example. I get up on a stage and I can speak to large groups, but people do know that I am shy, I'm introverted, and speaking in groups or being at parties or things like that don't come very readily where I'm able to do them without the anxiety. However, what I've decided is that I want to move away from that because it has that anxiety I expected. It has become a part of me. It's a part of the value that I have. But I do want to move away from it. So what do? I figured out that with that anxiety, that there are certain things I can do, like show up early at the event where I get to see the room filling up. Now that value that I had for with anxiety, it isn't as strong as it used to be. It's still there because it's a part of me, but I do know how to counteract it. Let's use another one: fear. Fear, we know, is one that can show up, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in our next slide. But I want you to stop for a moment. Look at some of these that's on this list and think about those values that you may want to move away from. And I want you to write those down. So, a problem arises when there is some inner conflict, usually coming from the clashing between your moving forward and values and your moving away values. Think of a time when you wanted something really bad, such as a different job or whatever, and you got pretty close to your goal, but for some reason it never materialized. On the surface, it may seem like it wasn't your fault, and when I talk about growth mindset, we discuss that there are ways that others may intentionally or unintentionally derail your plans. As we look at values for this session, I want you to look at what is in your control. Perhaps you didn't show up for an important meeting, so you didn't get the raise you wanted, or you stopped saving for the deposit for the car you wanted. Why would someone do that? Why would someone sabotage themselves? because at some level, perhaps subconsciously, people feel that the thing they want or the process of getting it will lead to pain. And if you stick around over the next few months, we do talk about pain and pleasure and how sometimes we attempt to protect ourselves from what we think may be pain, but can be the pleasure that we're looking for. So, not turning up for an important meeting could be your way of avoiding speaking up in public. Or not saving for the car could be avoiding the pain of having to put money on the side for something you cannot have access to right now. We come back to our friends of pain and pleasure for this. And this pain and pleasure comes from our values. When we want something consciously, but we haven't been able to achieve it, there is usually a conflict between the moving toward and the moving away values. For example, wanting to be successful but fearing failure, just know that there is no way to be successful without encountering a few failures along the way. Looking for love but fearing rejection, we all have to face some sort of rejection at some point in our lives. It's our job to not only identify our values, both moving toward and the moving away values, and then identifying any areas where there are conflicts, and for us to be able to find either the help, support, or do it ourselves, a way to overcome them. Using the values identification questions that I've asked will help you to find the resources that you may need to be able to look both consciously and subconsciously at those values and then deliberately realign your values so that both your conscious and your subconscious values are in line with your conscious desires. All right, before you move on into step 3, I just want to remind you to please stop the video if you need to, but go back to step 2, go back through it, and make sure that you've jotted down step 2, and then exactly what it is the questions that you're having to answer. I want you to stop for a moment and write those down. Step 3 is moving into narrowing down your values. So I'm going to have you to do 2 things in this area. The 2 things are I want you to write down at least 3 values that you currently hold, meaning that they are a part of you right now, and 2 values that are aspirational, your desire to gain, to have, to put in place. So once you've brainstormed what those values are, it's time for you to focus on your top 3 to 5. And the way that we're going to break that down is into 3 that you currently hold and 2 that you are aspiring to have in your life. So you're welcome to write out 10 whole values that you come up with, because I know that in that list of values, you're going to want to choose, more than 5. So right now, if you narrow it down to 10, and then I'm going to have you to narrow it down to 3 or 5. And it's those that really resonate with you. So again, the only reason I'm saying about the 10 is just because I know that, you just want to go through a list and select 10 that you either have or you want. But I'm asking you to narrow it down to 3 that you currently hold and 2 that you aspire to have in your life. For example, my top values are integrity, empowerment, and resilience. Integrity, empowerment, and resilience. And these are the 3 that are guiding everything I do. Resilience is one that I'm aspiring to continue to develop. So if that's what I'm desiring to develop, that's what I'm going to work on throughout the year. But I also want to be able to see what I already hold. I already hold integrity and empowerment, and I want to watch out for those and make sure that those are being put in place when I'm being challenged with whatever life throws at you. And with resilience, I want to see myself, begin to work on that throughout the year and to monitor how I'm growing that resilience that is within me, what I'm carrying with me. So those are the values that are going to guide me throughout this year. Core values, what they do is they help you to make aligned decisions. They provide clarity and focus and build a foundation for meaningful goal setting and working on those goals. They become the foundation for your meaningful goals. So, with that, I want you to now take 10 minutes today to reflect on the 3 steps that I've given to you. I want you to write down your top core values and place them somewhere visible in your journal, but you can also place them in other places. Like, for instance, some of my clients, what they'll do is they make pretty little cards and they'll put them in their bathroom on their bathroom mirror so that they can see those values in place. They put them in a notebook, they put them in their planner. They may have them like index cards that they carry around. It's up to you and what your life looks like. Oh, and another one is putting it by your computer if you spend a lot of time in front of your computer. But the idea here is to take 10 minutes to reflect and write down your top core values and place them somewhere where you can see them and allow them to guide your journey, where you won't forget them, where you'll come back to them every now and then throughout 2025. Because remember, our goal is to thrive in 2025. All right, you now have it. I would love for you, if you're in the Facebook group, to add some comments into the Facebook group, and let's continue this journey. I'll see you tomorrow.